And we're live.
Thank you. The meeting is called to order. Teresa, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Virgo,
Here.
trustee Cook, trustee Gray. Here. Trustee Johnson,
Here.
trustee Young,
Here.
trustee Lazio,
Here.
trustee Lemunion. Here. Trustee Pandolfi,
Here.
trustee Step,
Here.
trustee Thelis.
Here.
Trustee Wilson. Trustee Wyckoff. We have four.
Wyckoff is here, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. For those who wish to join the pledge and invocation.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United
States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We've got a few scripture verses. Aaron and I were having a conversation today, and just one of the things we talked about was the brevity of life and how that affects us sometimes, and just being grateful for one another as family, being able to encourage one another, and building relationships with the ones around us, which is what families do. And so this is a family, MCPL family, and we're for one another. We want to encourage one another on a daily basis, build one another up. And the brevity of life, scriptures tell us that we're given 70 years or due to strength, 80 years. So I'm pretty close to 80, so I guess I have a little bit of strength and keep going on. And in that verse, it says, teach us to number our days that we may cultivate and bring you a heart of wisdom in the end. And so that's what I've kind of lived my life by. I want to cultivate my life so that I would present a heart of wisdom in the end when I'm standing before the one who loves me. And so there's a couple of verses I want to read that speak into encouraging one another. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs it down, but a good encouraging word makes it glad. So how many times, Aaron and I were talking about this earlier, there's been many times in my life where I've felt a need to go encourage someone and I didn't do it. And then I didn't have an opportunity later, and I may never get that opportunity again. So I just want to encourage all of us. If you have that little inkling in there and that person, you're being drawn to them for some reason, just to encourage them or just to put your arm around them or just to give them a smile and tell them, have a great day, anything like that, just do it, because you never know what people are going through. Oil and perfume make the heart glad. So does the sweetness of a friend's counsel that comes from the heart. So someone may need that sweet counsel coming from you, and you don't really necessarily know what happens to them after you give them that counsel. Okay? And a plan in the heart of a man or a woman is like water in a deep well, but a man of understanding draws it out. So there may be something stirring in one of your coworkers' hearts or one of your friends that they just need encouragement, and you know that they're gifted or whatever. Just you're drawing out the plans that are stirring in their heart, and you don't necessarily even know it. But that one word of encouragement you gave them did something to release that, okay? And the last one says, don't be anxious worry about anything, but everything with prayer and thanksgiving, make your request known to God. And so if you want to join me in prayer. Father in heaven, we just thank you for your word. We thank you just for your ways. Lord, we just ask you to help us make the most of our days, the most of our time, the most of our words to one another. Would you help us build this family, the MCPL family, as we go throughout our day. And we thank you in the Lord's name. Amen.
Thank you. Before we jump into the meeting, I'd like to welcome Aaron, our new trustee from Bryan County, and hopefully all of us will have ample time to visit with him, introduce ourselves, and all of us get to know each other very, very well. So on my motion, I move the approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
I second it.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Trustee Virgo. Trustee Cook. Trustee Gray.
Yes.
Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Young.
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Lazio.
Yes.
Trustee Lemunion.
Yes.
Trustee Pandolfi. Trustee Stepp.
Yes.
Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson. Trustee Wyckoff.
Yes.
And yes, from trustee Virgo.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. I move the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? Please.
Trustee Virgo.
Aye.
Trustee Cook. Trustee Gray.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Young.
Aye.
Trustee Lazio.
Yes.
Trustee Lemunion.
Yes.
Trustee Pandolfi. Trustee Stepp.
Yes.
Trustee,
Aye.
that, Dr. Pandolfi, is that you? Yes.
Yes, aye.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Davis.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson. Trustee Wyckoff.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you, Teresa. I understand we have no visitors' comments, so if we can have the committee reports, the ad hoc committee for headquarters, please.
Thank you. Tomorrow morning, we have a meeting at 10 o'clock here in this facility to start the discussion of, we have a headquarters studies, obviously we've seen before, and now we're going to start hearing, making a decision as what we're going to recommend to the full board in terms of which one of the recommendations would we suggest, and maybe it's two, for example, and the funding sources, but that will be tomorrow morning. That starts tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Sorry.
Oh, and then the building committee will obviously hear, this is the ad hoc committee tomorrow on to discuss this, and then it would go to the building committee after it makes the ad hoc committee makes recommendations. But otherwise, the building committee has not met in the last couple months.
Finance and audit committee. Fundraising development.
A brief report that's come to me from staff. Just reached, this year's year ends, or last year ends, direct mail campaign is wrapping up. And it was a great success. Preliminary results show that 431 individuals donated to the campaign in support of outreach services to children and author programs for young readers. We give a big thank you to Carla and Brad Hughes for their challenge match gift of $10,000. Thank you very much again. Which has helped us to raise more than $53,000 today. And there are a few interesting facts about the campaign. The longest distance donation was received from Germany. Okay. The largest gift was $15,000, and 3 new donors signed up for automatic monthly donations. And then a special little call out to Rosemary Davis, who shared a letter with us about her late friend's love of the library system and wants encouragement to her to contribute. Staff expressed that they are very grateful for every person who donated to the 2024 year-end campaign, which gives us a good, strong start to early literacy work on 2025.
Thank you.
Thank you to Diana Ryder for providing the data to me for that.
Personnel committee. Person.
Did you say the personnel committee?
Yes, please.
Yes, the personnel committee has not met, and we do not have anything to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Technology,
We do not need either.
anything? Okay, financial reports from our CFO.
It's. We'll start our report with the property tax collections. Excuse me. The library has collected $22.3 million in the current fiscal year compared to $21.9 million for the same time frame the last fiscal year. We've collected just over about 30% of our total budget for the year. And just a reminder, especially for those who are new to the organization, the library receives the majority of its tax revenue in January. So we fully anticipate that we'll receive the rest of that revenue when we get the report next month. Moving on to the next slide. This is a slide of cash flow for the last 5 fiscal years. The purple line is current year cash flow and the yellow line is our projected cash flow. You can see the general fund has 23.4 million at the end of December. I'm sorry. The cash for all funds in the operating account is 10.6 million at the end of December. And that was after we had paid back the $7 million that we had borrowed in October and November. So from a cash perspective, we're in that flush part of our fiscal cycle. As you can see on the chart, we'll anticipate the rest of the cash for the fiscal year to be collected in January. And then from that point to the end of the fiscal year, we're just spending down those tax dollars each month. Moving on to the next slide, the general fund. The general fund has collected 23.4 million. It's about 99.7% of our total revenue. And our expenditures of 35.3 million, including the transfer out to the capital fund, is just about 110% of our projected budget. Again, largely due to that $4 million transfer that was not originally budgeted for. So the operating deficit for the year stands at just over $12 million in the general fund. The next slide is looking just at the capital fund. The revenues, including that $4 million transfer at 6.1 million, and expenditures of 410,000, about 10% of the projected budget for the year, with the majority of that going for the planning costs of the headquarter project that we've been discussing. And the last slide in the financial report is our health insurance. The health insurance fund has collected just over 2.4 million, about 51% of the budget, so we're right on track. And our expenses are just under 1.8 million, about 34% of budgeted expenditures. So right now we have an operating surplus in the healthcare fund of $692,000. And the last thing I'd like to share with you is our software project. Go to the next slide. Just a little bit of a reminder, during the budget process, we discussed replacing our financial management system. And so our staff sent out the RFP, the request for proposals, in August of 2014. We specifically sent it to 5 vendors that we know of that are in this marketplace. We also put it on our website as required by our policy, and also sent the proposal to a couple of government repositories where people frequently go to look for government business. Of the 5 that we contacted specifically, 2 sent in a proposal. So we formed a multi-departmental team to evaluate those proposals. And after all the proposals were reviewed and we discussed it, we decided to invite both of those vendors in for a software demonstration. So we held that demonstration, the original one, in the October-November timeframe. And it was a chance for staff in all of the departments to come see both softwares, see, what our options are, what possibilities they could have in the new software that we don't currently have in our current software. And after that,
software demonstration, there were, some questions that the members of the committee had. So we thought it would be prudent to talk with the references that both vendors provided. So we did those reference checks as well. And then after that, we had another list of questions. And so we felt it would be most fair to ask both vendors to come back for one more software demonstration. But instead of being your typical sales pitch, if you will, we developed our own list of questions and said, this is what we specifically want you to address. So we took all of that data, the proposals that they submitted, the software demonstration that they provided, the one we asked for, and the references. And the committee overwhelmingly agreed that the vendor BSNA was the best one that would fit the needs of our organization. After all that was done, we then looked at the cost proposals, and thankfully, BSNA was also the lowest cost vendor. But really, cost was the last thing that we looked at. If you want to flip to the next slide, it's kind of hard to read. This is also on board docs, but each group in the committee scored experience, functionality, the vendor's implementation approach, those references that I mentioned, and then from the demonstration, their technical ability, and then most importantly, their understanding, I guess, our interpretation of their understanding of our needs. So which vendor was really going to meet the needs of the library? And as you can see, BSNA scored highly in all categories. And so at the very bottom, we have cost proposals. But BSNA, the software itself is around $14,000. And then they have a little over $40,000 in implementation costs. So that's helping us convert our current data from our current system to the new system, training our staff on the new software, providing expertise and technical support as we transfer from one system to the next. So we're happy with BSNA. We've had a couple of conversations with them. We're currently working on a scope of work so that they know what we need, we know what they need. And when all of that is done, then we'll have a timeline that we can share about when we expect the software to be up and running. But that is the totality of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Here's what software company do we use currently?
It's called Blackbaud, and we use the Financial Edge product.
Does the price that we're paying compare like with what we're paying now?
Yeah, it's actually cheaper. So Blackbaud is at $30,000 a year. BSNA is quoting $14,000. So
You maybe briefly tell the board what the software will do that we're currently unable to do?
Yes, I can. One of the things that the committee really liked about this software was not so much what it could do different, but just the structure of the software is uniform, no matter whether you're looking at assets or inventories or supplies or cash. Anywhere you are in the system, the main display stays the same, which we believe will help our end users feel more comfortable and confident in what they're looking at. Some of the things that we are looking forward to specifically is that currently everything that's done in finance regarding purchasing is all outside of the system. So people are getting, paper requisitions, and they're signing them, and they're either emailing them or walking them around the building. This will all be electronic and automated. So from an internal control standpoint, it'll be one less security risk in terms of unauthorized people making purchases on behalf of the library. From a efficiency standpoint, it'll be a lot faster. Plus, anyone who has made a request will know within the system where it is. Is it in your department? Is it in the finance department? Is it in the legal department, et cetera? And so tracking down pieces of paper, trying to find signatures will be a thing of the past with the new software. So that's probably the thing that we're most excited about. Beyond that, we feel that the reporting capability will be more robust. We believe that each department will have more access to their own data, so they won't be waiting for these titillating monthly reports that I give, but they'll be able to find out in real time what their expenses are. And most importantly, track things that they've agreed to pay for but haven't yet paid for in the government world. We call that an encumbrance. So they'll be able to track those throughout the system and throughout the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? On to, is there any unfinished business? Hearing none, new business? Hearing none, our CEO's report.
All right, thank you. So as usual, we have the MCPL monthly for your review. There's some great stories outlined there. One that I will just draw your attention to is that Woodneath, 100 students showed up to give presentations on Native American history. It's a heartwarming story, but it demonstrates the level of engagement we have in that community. And it also confirms my belief that that is the right building for that location. So there's very few locations that can welcome in 100 students to give presentations the way Woodneath can. So it's a great story, and we spoke around the MCPL monthly. But I want to allot my time here today for a presentation for Aaron Kennedy, who oversees our Department of Digital Innovation. So I was fortunate to watch Erin's work in action at the Real World Learning Center in Hickman Mills. And I wanted her to speak a little bit about that work and a few other things that her department's been doing over the past year. So Erin, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, come on up.
We have another guest too.
Oh, we have another
Andrew
guest.
Smithson, he's one of the teachers who runs the Real World Learning Center at Hickman. I thought he would be a good person to help
Yeah.
talk about what we've been doing. So like Aaron said, I'm Erin Kennedy, Digital Innovation Manager at the library. This is Andrew Smithson. He runs the Real World Learning Center. We were just going to talk a little bit about what each of us do, and then kind of, how this partnership came into being and why we need to do it. So if you could go to the next slide. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. So right underneath the Grandview Triangle is our Real World Learning Center. A couple of years ago, Hickman Mills was able to pass both a bond and a levy, and the bond issue went towards renovating a few new buildings. One of them is our Real World Learning Center, and that building houses a lot of the district's different sort of hands-on real world learning courses. They have certified medical assistants and certified nursing assistants. We've got a design program and a student-run coffee shop. Grand opening of which is tomorrow, and we'll be on KSHB if you want to watch. My class is actually, you can see in the image there. I run a program called the Core Program, and we have students that walk through. In the jargon, it's client-connected projects, but we pair with different organizations throughout the city and work projects with them. Regardless of the project, the kids get a little bit of critical thinking and problem solving and project management. And then depending on the project, they get some specific skills. So this particular project, working with Aaron, they got to dive into what digital media literacy means for teenagers and how pervasive that is among their peers and what we might be able to do with the library in order to improve that.
And just a fun connection, if you remember Dr. Leah Lefevre from the Nice to Meet You videos, she is Andrew's co-teacher, so we also worked with her in this process. Brian, if you could go to the next slide, please. So just to let you know a little bit about the Digital Innovation Department, we offer enhanced consumer technology education. We focus on emerging technology as well as digital literacy, so that's any literacy in online spaces. We have classes and programs at branches, so you can look in the program guide event system and find our classes. We offer classes that run the gamut from basic Word classes, basic computer usage, streaming services, digital media literacy, and we're pleased to offer an Intro to AI class this spring. So please come to that if you are so inclined. We also did the Facing the Future series this past year, which was really great. Ron and Joycelyn, thank you so much for coming out and supporting that event. It was a speaker series devoted to algorithmic literacy and digital media literacy. We had Tobias Rose Stockwell, who's an author. He wrote Outrage Machine. I highly recommend that book. It talks about how we're divided in online spaces and how our culture is very divided. He does a great job of tackling all sides of that issue. We had Kashmir Hill come and talk to us about facial recognition technology. A little bit scary, to be honest with you. And then we had the digital Minister for Digital Affairs of Taiwan, Audrey Tong. We did a virtual program with her. She was fantastic. Had a lot of great information. And then we ended the series out with Kyle Shaka to talk about, why online spaces might not be what we think they are in terms of culture and all of that anymore. So it was a really great series. We're gearing up for round 2. I don't want to share too much just yet, but keep an eye out on the library's socials and mymcpl.org/facing the future for any upcoming announcements. We also have been working on digital media literacies digital media literacy initiatives outside of that. So our aim is to build literacy amongst customers of all ages, so multi-generational approach to this. Algorithms control what we see online, and we want folks to understand kind of how that's shaping what you see online and why you keep seeing the same sort of things over and over again. And we're all familiar with the term echo chambers, and we kind of are diving into the why behind that. But again, we want to give people the tools to make up their own minds. We are radically neutral, and we have no agenda other than making sure folks are information literate. We also have classes at the branches. So again, look at our program guide and the event system for that. We also have been doing a series of bookmarks called Is It Legit? For some information about kind of online scams and other safety issues online. The red one is the one that we just put out just in time for Valentine's Day on online romance scams. So take a look at those. You can get those at a branch. We're almost finished with the series of those, so you'll be able to collect those all at branches. We also have a video series coming out for digital media literacy. We were fortunate enough to partner with Dave Helling. If you've been in the area, he was a very well-respected newsman. Caitlin Canute and Charlie Keegan from KSHB, and then Carlos Morena from KCOR. We have a video that's going to be coming out in the coming months. So again, keep an eye out for those. I think they're going to be really, really great. And then, of course, we have this partnership with Hickman Mills School District to work with teens and young people. So before we kind of jump into this, I thought it might be kind of fun to play a really quick game. So if you could go to the next slide. So I want everyone to, we did this online. Everyone just take a look at this photo and just shout out if you think it is real or if it was made synthetically or with artificial intelligence.
You want answers?
Yeah, just holler it out.
Only because of your presentation, I'm going to assume that's AI.
Okay,
AI,
AI, why do you say AI?
it just doesn't look real. It doesn't look like a painting, like an artist did it.
Does anyone think this is real?
I'll say I think it's real.
Okay, you're brave. Why did you say real?
Well, I'm just saying that. It's really hard to tell. I mean, it looks like this kid has made this, but yes, it's very easy to be tricked, so I don't know for sure.
So this entire image is made with artificial intelligence. This is not a real child. He has 3 fingers and a thumb. If you look at the hair,
I wish we could see it closer.
so Michael, you're right on, like the hair, there's something very off about it. It has an uncanny valley feeling, but understand that eventually synthetically generated information is slated to take over information made by a human being. So this is a critical thing we need to teach folks about and understand that this is the worst this is going to be. This is only going to get better, and eventually you may not be able to tell the difference. So it's important to be aware of that.
Wow.
So moving on to kind of the need of this for teens, if you could go to the next slide. So a little bit of info about digital media in teens. So one, the cohort that we're working with, this is one of the first cohorts of young people to come of age completely on social media. They don't know a world without social media. So that's one unique thing about this group. 2, in a 2023 Deloitte study, they found that Gen Z was 3 times more likely to be scammed online than boomers. And the reason for that is because they're spending about 4 hours a day online, sometimes more. They have a higher level of trust in online spaces. And the other piece of that is they have a lower level of financial literacy, meaning that it's much easier to scam members of Gen Z with financial scams on them. So they don't understand that a 25% rate of return on your money is maybe not legitimate. On
Not
Instagram.
historically correct.
Yeah. And then thirdly, they are getting all of their news from new media. When we spoke to these students, they don't look at cable news. They don't look at newspapers. They get all of their news from TikTok, Instagram, X, all of that, not Facebook, because that was clearly not for them. So that was kind of like, I just wanted to lay out kind of the need for this as to why we're doing this. So if you could go to the next slide, and I promise I'm almost done because I know you guys want to.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we were putting together the adult class, we were kind of like, my team was like, how do we reach out to young people? Because this is different. They're looking at different sources of information. And we all kind of came up with like, well, we're kind of old people. So maybe we're not the best first people to teach about this.
Maybe it's the term older, not old.
Older. Okay.
Experience.
Seasoned, yeah, seasoned, I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
So I reached out to Andrew and just wanted to see if maybe we could partner with the students because I know they worked on real world, learning projects. And we posed the question to these students, how can we teach teens about digital media literacy at the library? We started out their semester with this, and Leah and Andrew worked with them and kind of laid out what digital media literacy was. When we got to their final projects, we learned that they didn't even know what digital media literacy was or media literacy before we even started this process. So it was pretty incredible to see their journey, like starting from not knowing anything to like having fully fleshed projects at the end of this. So there were 20 high school juniors and seniors in groups of 3 or 4 that got together to come up with a solution. And we're going to be displaying those hopefully in the spring online. They had a really interesting array of solutions. I thought they were all going to say, do something online, but a lot of them had in-person experiences, which I thought was pretty interesting for the age group that we were working with. Charlie Keegan from KSHB is going to be covering it for News Literacy Week next week. So we're going to film that. So watch out the first week of February for that coverage. But yeah, Aaron and Brian came down when they did the final projects in December. It was pretty cool. It was kind of like being on Shark Tank a little bit. So it was really fun. Do you have anything to add on the projects? Or?
No, the kids, this was their first really big project of the year. And like Erin was saying, when she threw the phrase digital media literacy, that was entirely Greek to them. So the learning process wasn't just about, how do we tackle this problem, but they also had to learn what that phrase meant and how you might educate other people on that phrase. It was a pretty intensive growth experience for a few weeks, but it was really good.
And if you could go to the next slide, please. We also had the students come to the Grandview branch on a field trip because as they were going through this process, they needed to see what our library spaces look like. And we also wanted to educate them a bit on library principles as well as library careers. So Aaron Mason and Brian came and talked about library careers and kind of how you get into that and how you can have different careers besides just, working at a branch which is also great, but like to know that there's a wide variety of library careers and also to talk a bit about intellectual freedom principles, how we don't lead people to a conclusion, rather we lead them to the information and allow them to make up their own mind. That visit was covered by Nathan Brennan from KCTV5, and I highly recommend checking it out because the students were absolutely incredible on it. We had a young lady named Peyton who summed up media literacy as people be lying, and she was right. So it was really, really great. It's been a great experience. We're going to partner up again next year for another project, so that'll be fun. But yeah, do you have anything to add on the visit?
No, the visit was hugely helpful. Like Erin was saying a little bit earlier, that the kids are almost just as happy to FaceTime with their friend than go over to their house. So we found that field trips with these groups of students, particularly post-pandemic lockdown, is the experiential piece of that is invaluable. So just getting them into the building really opened their eyes. They live next door to it, but they never gone in. So seeing the careers, we had a couple of kids who I think might apply to shelf some books when they turn 18, but just being in that space, and a lot of them have little siblings, seeing the little kid like cornering it was impactful. It meant a lot.
So that concludes this. Does anyone have any questions or? Yes.
So do we have any plans to partner with other school districts or schools for a similar kind of project?
That's what we're kind of hoping. We're a pretty small team, so resources are pretty limited, but Brian and I have had those discussions about how we might scale this up and expand it to other districts, because we have other real world learning centers popping up all throughout our district and school districts. I think experiential education is becoming way more common and important, and so we want to support that for the community for sure.
I have a high school junior son, so I mean, all of this hits very true to home. It's interesting to have conversations about news stories and things, because they'll give me information they've received and I don't recognize any of the sources. And I'll come back at them with, well, there's NPR and there's Reuters and there's this, and they're like, what? And so, yeah, bridging that gap and understanding what is a genuinely authentic news source, what's credible is really going to be critical.
There is they call this type of project a client connected project, and because educators love their acronyms, CCP. And there's a whole cohort of teachers in the greater Kansas City area that are learning how to run these kinds of projects. So districts all over the metro area will be looking for partners for these types of projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great job.
Thank you.
If I just could add a remark, it's easy to have kind of a gloomy outlook on the state of young people in the world if you live entirely online. But what we witnessed when we went out to the Real World Learning Center was a counter to that perception, right? These kids were very bright, excellent presenters. And if I could, I would hire a few of them right now, because they're destined to be just truly magnificent people. But it was a great experience, and they did an excellent job. So.
Any other questions? Okay, the next matter on the agenda is the board going into closed session, so we'll need Cody to,
Just for a second, you didn't go to your MCPL monthly,
What's that?
your MCPL monthly, the monthly.
Oh, it's there.
I think you want to go to that.
Oh, no, that's fine. I think, anyway, there's plenty in there, and I encourage you all to look at it.
okay, we'll be adjourning this open session, and Cody, could you just connect us, please?
Well, we need to say.
One question, we have to have a vote on this.
Make a
We have to
vote.
vote to go into closed session.
That's right. Okay, I move that we recess our open session and reconvene into a closed session pursuant to provisions on the screen. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Teresa, would you call the roll, please?
Trustee Virgo. Aye. Trustee Cook. Trustee Gregg.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Young.
Aye.
Trustee Lazio.
Yes.
Trustee Lemunion.
Yes.
Trustee Pandolfi.
Aye.
Step.
Aye.
Trustee Theus.
Yes.
Trustee Wilson.
Yes.
Trustee Whitecroft.